From the heart of Maine, this is the DuView podcast.
All right, and welcome to this week's episode of the DuView podcast. I am your host, Du, a.k.a. Ryan Dumont, and we are back here with a solo episode 38 this week to round out the year, guys. Yes, that's right. We have hit the end of 2022, and so that means we're at the end of the year, guys. Simply put, I mean, there's no other way to elegantly put it. We're at the end of the year. 2022 will soon be saying goodbye to us, and it's been an interesting year, to be completely frank, and I guess that's really what this whole episode is about, to really round out the year, do a little reflection on, where we are and where we've come and where we are now and all that good stuff, and additionally just kind of touch base with you guys of what's going to come in 2023 with the podcast and just kind of where I'm at, too, a little bit. And so, like I said, it's been a wild year. 2022 has really been an interesting one, full of gaining of knowledge, joys and strife. We've had an election. Among, much else. And for me, it was a year of a lot of firsts in a lot of ways. And here on the podcast, as I said, is no exception. It's just looking at 2022 as a year where I've like I talked about on This Is 26, very much, getting into fully my new career. And while also trying to balance time for personal life. When you're learning something new, you really want to dive into, at least the type of person I am, you really want to dive into it 125%. And to be able to really do that, unfortunately, you make some sacrifices on the other end, whether that means not seeing people as much or not doing as much as you used to in the community or whatever. Like I said, if you're giving time to something, you're going to have to take some time away from something else. And, that's just kind of where I've been at with things the last year, trying to learn something completely new to me or kind of foreign to me. Like I said, I worked with my hands a little bit previously, but not to the extent that I am now. And like I said, I'm pretty proud of where I'm at and very excited to see where this next year takes me, because in 2023, I'll be starting in-person classes, as well as other things that are going to, expand my knowledge in my field, and as well as, trying to balance some of these skills, as I said in the previous solo episode, trying to balance some of my skills and capabilities from my other previous employments, just trying to use the skills I've already honed in and continue to use them, as they do overlap. All the fields do overlap, at least as far as I'm concerned. And, if you're a good organized person, if you're a good organized teacher, you're going to be a good organized worker regardless of what you do. If you're a good organized campaigner, you're going to be a good organized campaigner regardless of what field you end up to. And I still feel it's the same way with me, in the electrical field as well. It's just, again, finding my way in my new path and in my new, section of life that I'm at. And, with that being said, it's been, like I said, it's been a real learning experience. Like I said, as I, opening with this episode, learn something new every day. And like I said, you can be, proud of yourself in a lot of aspects, that if you're, going to work with an open mind, and this is anything you do in life, really. I mean, I'd much prefer to, be, open-minded, going with a fresh, open way of doing things versus, just kind of stagnating and not changing things up. Like, I look back fondly on my advice with my coworker, actually at one time coworker and former mentor, Mr. Millett, talking about reinventing yourself. And so I look back on a lot of that stuff fondly, and really kind of resonates with me as I go on to start, or not only I've already started, but as I continue on this own personal journey of my own. And so that's unique in a lot of ways. And I guess that's my piece of advice for anybody that is, or may find themselves, restarting, whether it be in the new year or whether it be, restarting in the sense of new employment, or restarting even in the sense of starting a new hobby, or picking back up an instrument that you stopped playing, whatever it may be. Again, going into it with the right mindset is super important, and that's been the biggest thing for me, is making sure that I'm in the right mindset. And I'm not going to sit here, guys, and pretend like it's easy, because it's definitely not. Adjusting your perspective on the fly can definitely be an undertaking, and you know what, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be pissed off some days, but you got to remember at the end of the day, what you're doing on your journey, if this is something you truly want to be doing, you're there, you're in the thick of it. So, enjoy it for what it is. And, on the days that are hard, you'll eventually, one of these days, you'll look back fondly and say, hey, at the end of the day, this wasn't so bad, or whatever that might be. And or maybe you won't. Like I said, that time, that moment of reflection, and hence why I, like doing episodes like this. But the time of reflection comes at different points for everybody, and that's just a fact. It's like if I'm, 26 and, at a different point in my life than somebody who's 40 and has two kids. Like I said, those point in everybody's lives comes at, when they're ready, or when time is ready, or fate, or whatever cosmic force you want to describe that as. And I think that that's kind of the big thing for 2023, is just kind of letting the things that are outside of my control go, and controlling what I control, and, not sweating the things I can't sweat at this moment in time. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be, forward thinking and, have a 5-year plan or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just trying to figure out, this is what I need to worry about. This is what I don't need to worry about. And I think that's one of the biggest struggles as a young person, as a 4 years to 30, type of dealio, is that it isn't always going to be easy, especially, when even if you think you have all the talents and the skills or whatever that you think you need to survive, it still might not be enough. And so that's kind of where I was at, or where I am still at, to a point, and that's what I'm trying to get at. And it's like, folks, if I struggle, I guess what I'm trying to get at is everybody struggles. I've struggled. Person next door to me struggled. Person down the street, across town, whatever. Everybody struggles in their own way, and it's just kind of keeping mindful about, one person's struggle is not exactly overt or unique to themselves or to another, but it's just, taking the extra second, I guess, to just be a little bit more patient with each other too. It's not even like I'm not even saying like you need to fully step in the other person's shoes or whatever like that, but just take a step back, be patient. And I need to be better about this too, for the sake of full admittance. It's like I'm not perfect about this either. But I'm better about it than I definitely used to be. And anybody that, any of the guys like I had on last week, or any of the or last episode, or any of the folks that have known me for a good amount of time, yeah, I've gotten a lot better with patience and some of the other skills that weren't always there. And but again, those things come with time, and that's no different from anything in politics to whatever. Things do take time to change, and that's a fact right there. They say change is the only constant in life, but change also takes time. It's not, big sweeping change doesn't come overnight as much as we'd really like it to. And that goes from, like I said, anything in politics to the big world, to also our, professional lives too, or personal lives for that matter, as well, as I'm kind of getting into. And like, and that's it for me too, is, did have a lot of firsts this year at the same time, as well as having, some struggles and whatever. And so you got to look back at like some of those firsts, or some of those good things, and hopefully at the end of the day, they outweigh the bad. And so like, looking at this year, I had my first 4-man podcast episode. Starting out, I knew that, when I had some technology issues, like, hey, that might be a little while off, but it happened, made it happen. I now have 4 microphones and a brand new, MacBook Air. Like I said, I worked my ass off for it. I won't lie to you guys there and say that there wasn't a lot of hard work put in. But at the end of the day, one of my favorite sayings, I got to get a DuView podcast, like, book of sayings. Because I know, like, folks, people come up to you and say, do you know, like, the fact of the matter is, or whatever, some of your big tie-back sayings. Oh, trust me, I know I use those all the time. And no, I'm well aware of it. And I think I might put up a DuView podcast word book, or, word list, and throw that up there. Or maybe it could even be a drinking game. When Du says, insert, cliche here, everybody takes a shot. No, I'm joking. But anyway, the fact of the matter being, though, is that, things were in a different stage than what I'd hoped they'd be when I started out, because, you have a plan in your mind, you try to stick to the plan, and then things don't really, come out to fruition like that, and you can't get upset. And it's like, yeah, well, of course I wanted to have, like, multiple guests on at once or whatever, but yeah, at the time and where I was with things, it just wasn't in the cards. But eventually, over time, and by the end of 2022, I did in fact have, multiple of my friends on for a big episode. And like I said, hoping to do more multiple guest episodes, like, three guys. I really want to try the 3-person dynamic. I think that'll be coming up here pretty soon, not to give anything away. But that being said, it's just, it's cool with all this, like, technology that's out there, to be able to do so much with really so little. I mean, at the end of the day, like, my studio is no more than a little rectangular audio interface that is all of maybe I don't know, 6 inches to a foot long. And then I have a MacBook Air, 4 microphones, and a couple tables and a couch, or somewhere to sit. And before it was not as. I'm glad bringing the couch was one of the best moves, personally, in my opinion, because I was sitting in some hard wooden chairs before, folks. And I'll be completely honest with you, even coming down to record solo episodes wasn't the most comfortable thing. And like I said, things are changing, things are improving slowly but surely. It's like I said, I'd love to make drastic, sweeping change. Like I said with change, just literally a couple minutes ago, I'd love to make big sweeping changes overnight. But like I said, that's not always in the cards. It's not always in the cards either. And, something that still hasn't been in the cards this year is video. Now, hopefully, the next time you see the podcast episode, you'll be able to also log on to YouTube and see my bright, shining, smiling face along with my guests. But that's just, like I said, I am not a video editor, and I'm doing my best I can with that. And that was another hurdle early on starting out. I've talked about before that, really was trying to have that videography side of things, to the podcast, because it really does help you stand out and it does make you unique in a lot of ways. And so I just really wanted to, have that too. And like I said, I have the cameras and everything, and might even be able to do multiple angle shots at some point. But for now, we're just gonna have one camera shooting down at the new seating area in the studio, and yeah, just gonna hopefully be able to run with that. And like I said, and as I said before, guys, that may have an effect on how often I'm putting out episodes. I'll keep you guys updated on that. You'll definitely either hear about it in an episode or you'll see a social media post about it when I start back up into 2023. Like I said, this is going to be the last episode for the rest of this year, but that gives you guys plenty. I mean, I have 30. This will be episode 38. Plenty of episodes out, as I know not everybody's listened to every episode, because talking with people that listen to the podcast, whether they be friends or new acquaintances, it's like, yeah, I mean, I go here and there and I'm busy, and it's like, but it's good to, throw on an episode of the old DuView podcast when you're in the car or whatever. And, that's been the biggest thing here this year, guys, is just trying to get the name out more, and really just trying to become a household name in the state of Maine. I mean, at least in the Augusta community and in the state of Maine. We're getting out there in Augusta, pretty well known at this point, really, to be honest with you, because at least in my hometown, I'm more than just a podcast. You get the entire, entity that comes with Ryan Dumont, I guess, in this situation, because I'm out, like I said, I do a lot of volunteer work in the community, and the DuView podcast is a sponsor for a lot of, it's a sponsor for CARA, sponsor, Capital Area Recreation Association, sponsor for a lot of community events. And that's really what I hope to do with this podcast, and whether it becomes DuView Productions or just the DuView podcast, is just really be more than just a podcast, also be like a community force for good, or I guess whatever my conception of good is. But like I said, I'm about bringing people together. I'm about telling the right stories that aren't gonna get told, and just highlighting all the cool musicians, the unique places that make Augusta and Maine beautiful, and just make this state and this area what it is. And so like I said, working on getting the full community support, but that'll come too. Like I said, these things come with time, and like I said, as I've said a few times now in this episode, change is not overnight. It's not quick. It's not, it takes a second. And, that's what I'm doing, is just, I have all the planning there. It's just having the help along the way and the other things, it's like, as much as I can share my own episodes and whatever like that, is it really comes down to folks that are listening to share. And, I got to shout out a couple of my, a couple folks, who you are, that you log on, you probably have a top fans badge on Facebook, regardless if you were involved in the episode or you were mentioned in the episode, or if you've even been on the podcast or not. You're always sharing episodes. I got to be completely honest, folks. There's been a few frustrations, with some of and I'm not shitting on any of my guests or anything like that. I'm just, if you come on as a guest, you're expected to, share the podcast episode. I know that I always say that, when I have guests on, but I've even had, guests on in instances where they didn't share the episode, or, it's like, it's frustrating to, to try to build something up, and the person who even came on doesn't share the episode, and whatever their reasoning is for that is their own. But at the end of the day, for me, it's just, it creates a little bit of frustrations, especially when you're trying to, build a brand and everything like that. But that said, I really am super appreciative to all of those who have, consistently shared the episodes and everything like that. And so for those of you who have been, logging on and sharing everything, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Literally couldn't do it without you folks. And like I said, we're at the time of the year where we can, look back and say, thank you so much for those that, like I said, log on and share every episode, have given a review, like actually listen to what I say and say, hey, if you guys could give us a review or share the episodes. It's not just sharing the episode once, it's consistently sharing it. And, like I said, I appreciate those of you that log on and do that. And those that don't, if you could start, that would be so, so awesome. And like I said, I'm not trying to, piss anybody off or upset anybody. That's the last thing I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to build my little, DuView empire over here. And it's not the easiest to do without, sweeping support. And, if that comes back on me and perhaps people don't really want to, hear what I have to say or anything like that, that's cool too. But like at the same time, it's a little frustrating to have, people say, oh yeah, like you put out a great piece of content and everything like that. And then they never share the episode in any capacity on any social media. And it only takes a second, guys. Trust me, I understand everybody's busy. I understand everybody else has 100 other things going on in their lives. Trust me, I got things going on other than the podcast too. Believe you me, but I still find a time to lend a hand if somebody asks. So, like I said, if a friend asks for help, you help them. So, this is, I guess, my ask for help. I guess in a lot of ways here is, help us out in 2023. Share an episode. Just share our profile, share our YouTube page, whatever. Give us a review. The reviews help tremendously. Especially when people, log on and see, oh, wow, the DuView podcast has like 5 stars or 4.8 stars or whatever it is. Must be a decent piece of content, It definitely helps us get across to more people. And so that's really the mission for this next year is trying to get on some higher profile guests, some people from outside of the, my direct area, while there's still some high profile guests in this area that I have not touched yet. Trust me, they're the good number of them, at least in my opinion. But, really starting to branch out more and look at the rest of New England too. And I definitely have some folks down in the Massachusetts area that I need to get on the podcast. They've just either played too big of a role in my life to not be on, or they just have some great stories and are terrific people that I just need to, get on here. Like I said, I went to St. Anselm College, being a small school, met a lot of really fantastic, unique people, and then through the people who I went to them, met their friends, etc., and so forth. And so, like I said, I have the guest list is quite long, guys. Trust me, there's no shortage of guests. When I do solo episodes, it's a lot of the time because I don't have the time. Unfortunately, it's like, like I said, I work a full-time job, guys, and do 100 other things. So, I do the solo episodes sometime to also give me a break, to let me reset. And also because a lot of my guests are busy people too. And, it's like, well, I can't really do it this month or that month, but hit me up, in a couple months. It's like, well, that again, that limits your, who you can have on and when. And I try to do things, seasonally speaking. I try to make things, semi-relevant. It's like if it's the middle of winter, I try not to talk too much about baseball. But then again, you do what you do what you do when the time, presents itself. And so, and then another thing, to look forward to in the new year is, I'd like to really look into some advertising of some capacity, not to like burden you guys with like My Pillow and like all these other like online advertisements. I don't even know why I thought of My Pillow, but regardless, not him. He's wild. That Mike Lindell's wild. No, I don't want him to advertise on my podcast. I don't have time for that. But anyway, is money spends, but you got to look, and I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at. Their money may spend, but I do kind of look at the who is advertising on my page. Like, I don't know if any of you guys like watch YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube in my free time, and like they have a thing for like established titles. Like you buy your friend or family member like a 0.001 of an acre in like Scotland or something like that, and it technically entitles you to becoming like a lord or a lady. Like, I mean, if your scam alarms are going off, it's probably because they should be. It's like buying a star, or something like that. It's a unique novelty thing, but I don't know. That's not the type of advertising I'm looking at. When I say I'm looking to advertise, have advertisements on my podcast, it's not at all what I'm looking for. I would much rather have a local eatery or sandwich shop or bar or brewery or something, or local, trade shop or something, like whether it be a plumbers, electricians, or framers and carpenters or whatever. I'd rather have something like that than, this big multi-conglomerate. Yeah, does that limit my scope and my reach and, how much money I'll be able to get? Of course it does, but like, again, it's not about the money. If you know me, like the same reason I do music is not for the money at the end of the day. Is the money great? Yeah, money's great. With making a few bucks off the podcast a month, because I'll be honest with you, folks, the podcast does cost me money. There are things that do cost money, and it'd be nice not to recap costs, but to cover future costs, or to cover some of the things I want to do in the future. And I'll get into that a little bit later in this episode. But like I said, we're not just like I said, a for profit for me. Like I said, I do sponsor community events like the Cara Golf Tournament and the Cara Auction. I was a proud sponsor for both of those, and like I said, I've documented both of that. You can see that on social media. But it's like I said, I'm trying to be more than just a like a podcast. Like make a little bit extra money here and there or something like that. It's like, because that's not really, like I said, that's not really what I'm about in any capacity. Don't get me wrong, I like money. Like, who doesn't? You need it to survive. I'm not gonna pretend like that. But like, again, at the end of the day, like an abundance of material is not really what I'm looking. Obviously an abundance of podcast material, but I'm talking material wealth. That's not what I'm really looking for. Like, I like having a few nice things, but at the end of the day, it's like it's having the money to do other things, like being able, I guess I'll just get into it now. It's like, I was thinking about what can I do as as with this platform to make things unique. And it's like, well, I can cover different, political events like I did with the, the war in Ukraine episodes. I can do things my way because it is my, it's the DuView podcast. It's my views, as I've said a couple times. And that's very true. At the same time, it's, also do other things, like I've talked about, my love of local music, and I felt like this year local music kind of lacked a little bit on the podcast, and it's like, you know what? It'd be cool to be able to do like a DuView podcast rotating concert series, have a local group come on, perform some songs, live stream the concert, obviously, on social media, and then turn the camera over and see, us sitting down and talking. Maybe have a mini interview in the middle of the set or something like that. Sell a few audience tickets. Just like I said, just solely to cover costs of whether it be, utility costs for the podcast, whether it be, lighting and stuff like that, whether it be audio equipment, whatever it might be, just covering like little, things like that to be able to do more. Or, like being able to, like I said, have a rotating event like that indoor, obviously in the winter months, have like a basement show type deal, or something like that along those lines. And then in the summertime, maybe even do something in out on a lawn somewhere, or rent some space. And like I said, that takes money to be able to do that type of stuff. And so, just really trying to be different and unique. And again, it's like not just like having local musicians on and talking to them, but also saying, hey, here's some of their craft too. And just be, being more of a, like I said, a community entity in that aspect, and really just trying to, bring people together. And I guess that's really, one of my, I was going to put together kind of like a list of gripes for 2022 for the podcast. And I guess that allows me to kind of move on to that, is the lack of unity. And so, like I said, the big thing on the podcast is to bring people together. And you're going to say, well, you call out this group and that group and whatever. Yeah, because these groups are not pro unity. They're not trying to bring people together. And so when I say, oh, like something about the Republican Party, or something about this, that, or here, is because they are literally going out of their way to separate people and to draw people apart, and to emphasize more of the things that makes them separate than the things that actually bring them together. The overlying fact, folks, is that at the end of the day, we are all Americans, and regardless of if you liked the Orange Menace, or if you didn't, or if you like the current president that we have or you don't, at the end of the day, though, we all should be looking in the we all want, as a wise middle school teacher once told me, you should not want the president, whoever it is, to fall on their face every day when they wake up. You should want them to do well, because when the president walks well, the American people walk well. Or I'm paraphrasing, but like I said, a very wise middle school social studies teacher told me this, and he's right. Like I said, you shouldn't. It kind of, I guess, reflects back on where we're at right now, and I guess you can even apply this to myself at times. But it's the fact of the matter is that there should be a lot more bringing us together than separating us. Like as I've said to folks, whether it be in the working world, or in my own personal life, or whatever, us folks that struggle every day, we got to stick together. Us getting angry at each other, it isn't going to solve anything. It's just going to make those that create the problems for us even more powerful, because confusion breeds money, confusion breeds power. That's the truth. It's like, I look at, a lot of that's gone on in the last 3 years, and I'm just disgusted that some people are like, well, how can you vote for them or do this or do that? It's like, well, I care about, a lot of folks other than just again, it's getting back to away from like the tribalism aspects of the political life or of life in America right now. It's very much like we only want to take care of our people. Well, at the end of the day, you should be really more concerned about your greater community as a whole. Like, you can hate on one area or hate on one group of people, but that's not going to help your community any better, whether it be in forms of racism or whether it be in forms of classism or elitism in that aspect, like the haves and the have-nots or whatever. But the fact of the matter being is that, like, we should just there's like I said, everybody should want. I don't know why the idea of having good schools is foreign now. It's just like we can't even agree. Like, it's like getting away from get away from like the politicalization of education and just look at the facts. Kids can't make sentences. Don't look at, oh, the so and so interest group did this or that. No, shut that off for a minute. Look at the curriculum. Look at the bare bones stuff. Look at the things that are really important. In communities, it's like I'm looking at some of the stuff in my own community, and I see just a lack of affordable housing and a lack of a lot of different things that are going to allow young people like myself to be successful in these areas. And it's like, well, I don't understand why young people don't want to come up here. It's like, well, you got to make it affordable for us to live first. And again, it creates an interesting caveat because you say, oh, I want to make things affordable to live. And a lot of these older folks or some more, I will say, right-leaning folks go, well, no, that's because you want everything handed to you. You want things free. It's like, no, fucker, I'm willing to work. But you got to make the journey and the amount of work manageable. That's all I'm saying. It's that you can't expect us to, burn. Yeah, I mean, I'm not just directing this at one entity, but it's just like at all these folks that say, "Oh, all you young people just want things handed out." It's like, no, I can't think of any one of us that, at least in my direct, circle of friends that are on the younger side, that don't wake up and go to work in the morning. I mean, there's very few of us that don't. Even though, and again, like, even those that don't want to work do have the work ethic to go out and put out good work. And so it's very frustrating to hear that. And I do think it's the generations, unfortunately, to be kind of like a boomer myself and say it's the generations in front of mine. And I mean, I did see it. I have seen a change in work ethic and stuff like that. When I was teaching and stuff. But at the same time, you can't just blame the kids. It's like they're being taught it from somewhere. And so if you're getting mad, I think you got to look at the entire family structure of a lot of situations. And like, again, look at the curriculum I mean, you can't, not that you can teach family life, but it's like, I mean, you almost got to teach people how to be people these days. It's like, hey, like, organization is important, things like that. You just have to be. If you want to be a functioning member, and I mean, like, I'm just talking at the borderline, top line, not talking about any mental health, not talking about any type of disorders, not talking about anything, just like, whatever normal is, whatever the consistency or the conceptualized normal is. There are certain things you have to do in norms in society and stuff that you have to learn to be a functioning member. And a lot of folks are just saying, well, to hell with that. And that's why I think we see a lot of dysfunction in society. And that's like one of my big gripes of why people aren't together anymore, is because, they'd rather go retreat back to their piece of property away from somebody that has a different view than them than live next door to somebody that, and I mean, you can see it. Look at the makeup of a lot of communities. Like, I mean, if you look at a political leanings map, you have, you can look at areas of towns and stuff across the state of Maine, across the entire United States, and see, oh wow, like, this is a rural area. There are a lot of like conservative folks living out here or whatever. And it's interesting that, again, we're getting back to such a tribal, and it's scary. I don't like it by any means. That's why I think we really need to take a hard look at both political parties right now and just say, hey, chill out a minute, chill out a little bit. And I think, again, I'm just one person. I would take a united voice. But the fact of the matter being is that we're in an interesting spot, and again, I think we need to start working on coming back together than pulling people apart. And again, the COVID and all the other stuff made it easy to have people be at a distance, and regardless if we wanted them to or not, or whatever that may be, it's like at the end of the day, I think we're getting back to the thing. Well, it's interesting because we also have, like, now the COVID, flu, RSV murder cocktail going out and around, and people are sicker than dogs because of that. But what I was getting at is that we're getting back to like the full openness. And like I said, I talk about COVID a lot on here because I think it's something that still needs to be talked about. We can't just forget it happened. It's like, oh, well, you can, sit back and blame all your problems on COVID. And it's like, I can blame at least a couple of them on COVID. But regardless of that fact, it's good to keep that stuff in mind. And again, it's changing all of our generations. It's definitely changed my mental functions on a lot of things. I'm not gonna lie, it's had an effect on me. It's had an effect on everybody, whether they want to fucking admit it or not. But I digress. And the aside from that is that people are in an interesting state, and I think that that's why a lot of people are, pulled apart or not aloof, but are separated from each other. And instead of just, again, facing the things we have in common, they'd rather just be like, oh yeah, no, we'll just, go back to our, I don't know if you want to call it a safe zone or a safe place or whatever, but that is a reality for everybody, regardless of your political leanings, because you can see it in where people buy houses. You can see it in where people live if you look at the the breakdowns and the demographic of the social info on that. It's really fascinating and interesting, and it's just like. And it goes into another thing that I, kind of griped with this year was the war in Ukraine, and not more has been done about that. Regardless of where I've never seen such, I guess, a lack of caring for. I thought really with the COVID stuff we would get away from being like selfish and whatever, but actually it made people more selfish, oddly enough. But I thought we would be like, hey, let's cut back on the death, killing, and destruction. But I guess not. I think we're still very much into that. And that's where we're going to be for the next little bit here in Europe, I guess. It's like Putin started a no reason war other than the fact that he wants land and control, and he doesn't want the Ukraine to open up to the Western ideals and become an ally to NATO or a member state of NATO. And it's too bad that all these innocent European people are paying the price for one man's greed, and that's why I just don't have time for fascist dictators or anybody that really gets in the way of the people. It's like these Putin types, Kim Jong Uns, even to an extent of these. Again, like people can flip out and say you're wrong, but no, Trump was a very authoritarian style ruler, very authoritarian style, and it scared the shit out of me, to be completely frank with you. And it's like to see that authoritarianism still has a very secure place in the world is very scary. But it is the reality of the political system, the world. I'm a realist political thinker in the sense that the world is anarchic. There's always a lust and a want for power, and whoever controls it is going to strong arm their way into it. And how that idea has developed since the time of Bismarck uniting the German Empire, it has played out now in a very interesting way, to the sense that there are nuclear weapons, and you really can't strong arm people as much as you used to be able to in global affairs anymore, especially when and that's what really gets back to this whole Ukraine, why the Ukrainian problem hasn't been quelled quickly, because there are nuclear weapons involved, plain and simple, and that's the real scary bit. Mutually assured destruction. I encourage everybody to go watch. It's a little wild, wacky, and dated now, but I think it's still very apt to the situation of anything dealing with mutually assured destruction or nuclear bombs or nuclear winter or basically the annihilation of the G-damn planet. Dr. Strangelove and How I Learned to Love the Bomb. I've talked about it on this podcast before, but tremendous film. Just like I said, it really kind of puts things in a wild and wacky perspective on why we really don't want those things to go off. I mean, why any sane person would want to start introducing those back in. Like I said, nuclear energy is great. Nuclear power, like I said, is excellent. But let's keep it off the battlefield. And that's the one thing that really makes me nervous about this whole Russia thing. Would really like me to. I really would. And again, I guess my wish for this is, and it's a pipe dream. I realize political, science scholars and international relations scholars, but I'd really love to see a united, Europe and United States, or united, basically like you can call it an allies power, you can call it a NATO 2.0, you can call it whatever, a united front that basically just removes Putin from power. That's my ultimate end goal. I don't obviously see that happening anytime soon. But that would be like I guess if you want to call it my Christmas wish for Ukraine. Give Ukraine back its land, give it back its sovereignty. because it's not Russia's really to begin with. We established borders after the fall of the Soviet Union, and again, we had peace in Europe up until that. So it's just like, why you got to do that? But anywho, another thing I guess is this is just kind of goes down to, I guess, how expensive everything's getting. And it's like, I'm not an economist, but like I said, I banged around enough times in the political world to know a couple things, and it's like, it's an interesting sweep of things. Like I said, I do think with the COVID times, I do think that those who are able to produce things at a large rate are able to manipulate the chain of command and production because they see how shortages affect how much people want things. And I do think, and this is here comes the tinfoil hat. I do think that some of the shortages that are still going on, yes, you can blame on COVID and like lack of mass workers and stuff like that, but I do think that things are not being put out, say we're talking about, I don't know, something stupid, for example, like bricks. We're talking just like a brick. All right, so you're a stone, or you're a mason, you need, how many bricks for a house? Say you need 100 bricks, but bricks have been hard to get right now. So, you put in an order for 100, but the guy who over at the brick factory is like, well, hey, I can I know that there's a huge need for bricks right now, but I know if I raise my price and also make less, they'll still need them, and they'll still, be crying for them, and they'll do whatever they can to get a hand on my product. So yeah, I'm just gonna act like the COVID stuff's still going on and still manipulate things in an according way. So like the price of the price of bricks will go up, but there won't be as readily available. Like, again, I guess I just really poorly explained supply and demand, and how, like, again, I really do think that the SEC or the Federal Trades Commission, or whatever government entity, and I guess this is me putting too much faith in government again, but like whatever government entity controls, or maybe it's the Department of Agriculture with interstate commerce or whatever, but needs to really look at like what is actually, like how much can actually be made in this factory, and is it like a shortage of workers or whatever? Because I do think that is having a huge effect on anything from like how much food is available in grocery stores, and to to what's on the shelves, in terms of like all the flu and sickness drugs and everything like that, to whatever it may be. And it's like really annoying to see that, you definitely know that some folks are, using that to their advantage and abusing that. And again, not to wear my tinfoil hat too heavily, but I don't know. That's where I just think some of those things are at personally. But, another thing that I think is getting astronomically high in prices is tickets for like major shows. Yeah, it's really crazy. A lot of these concerts and shows are just coming out astronomically priced. I've talked about it a little bit before in previous episodes, but like, not that I was looking to go to the Blink 182 concert, but like that's a great example of like price gouging and stuff. And I effectively, like, looking into 2023, I'm kind of pissed I can't go to a lot of the Dead and Company last tour. I know a lot of people, a lot of the older heads don't like a lot of the the newer stuff, the new group that Bobby Ware put together. But the fact of the matter being is that it's out there. I like it, and try to go to that whenever, and it's the last one. And the show at Fenway is ridiculously expensive. At least in my opinion. I paid what I paid to go to Gillette, the year before, and that was that. Like that was not that was kind of pricey, but it wasn't astronomical high. But it's like, I've never been to a show at Fenway. I don't know how really great it is as a concert venue, but like, being the last show and all, it was like, kind of curious to see if I could get anything remotely close to the front. And it was like, here, pay a week's wages to or whatever for one night. And it's like, and plus, it's not even just the concert ticket. It's also, any form of lodging. If you don't try to make it away from the stadium rather, to stay with a friend or whatever. But and it's the food, the drink, the whole kit and caboodle there is just too much, when I could spend the same amount of money and do a lot more. And as a huge fan of the Grateful Dead, and I really do like the Dead and Company thing. It's I guess it's too bad to be priced out, I guess, effectively. And I don't really know who to blame for that. If I blame Ticketmaster, or if I don't really want to blame the band, but I mean, they've got to have, I don't know, they have to have seen some of the fucking stuff that people are saying. Like, people aren't exactly happy about it by any means. I don't know. I don't. Again, it's weird. Working class America is a weird place right now, and like what you call working class is also like can be a bit of a range too, going from state to state. So I don't know. It's just it's very interesting to see the price of that and food and stuff like that go up. And again, to say, oh, it's all Joe Biden's fault is, again, also unrealistic. He doesn't literally control the price of food and the price of fuel. People are foolish for thinking that. That is not in any way accurate. So it's again, a lot, as I've said on these episodes, a lot of it goes back to Congress. A lot of it goes back to Congress. They're an ineffective body of government. There's gridlock. The leadership is terrible. I mean, you just have to look, like, again, Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, and some other folks like that. On the Republican side, you have, the traitor Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell. It's just gross. It's really just like, if any of you people think that these people are actually good leaders, you're lying to yourself, because they're literally just slugs. They're self-interested slugs. And like I said, here I even criticized another political party for some of you, So it's just like, I don't know what to tell you guys. It's just those are my gripes for this year. And on the flip side though, there's been a lot of good too. It's unfair to just talk about the bad stuff, because again, there is a lot of good out there. And I guess the joys of this year, I guess I can kind of sum up the first part anyway, pretty bluntly and pretty easily, as I'm known to do. And it's just like, I really just felt in as 2022 has progressed, after the COVID bout and after dislocating my elbow, even after just the COVID bout and after the COVID fog cleared out of my brain and everything like that, I really just kind of started to feel like myself again. And I don't know. It's just been kind of, to be honest with you folks, if you've listened to any of these episodes where I get a little bit more personal, it's I felt I've been in kind of a funk the last couple of years, between like all the restarting of life and all the different career changes and everything like that. A lot of stuff was just kind of bringing me down in a lot of ways. And so I just kind of wasn't being myself to how I knew myself, as how a lot of people know me, as outgoing and energetic and as extroverted. I've definitely, that's what I'd say, we got to talk about COVID. I've definitely become more introverted with, having no other choice really, I guess, in certain aspects. But that being said, I definitely feel like, in the lack of better terms, I'm definitely back on my bullshit. And I just, like I said, I want other people that are also going through tough times, and I know that there are a lot of folks that have had to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of journeying through these last few years. It's gonna get better. It is tough, and again, anybody really going through adversity, it is tough. But again, it's the tough catalysts that make us who we are. And like I said, I'm no stranger to that, unfortunately. And like I said, I went through it myself. But like I said, I've come to a point in my life now where I feel like I can literally fucking do anything. And I kind of proven that I can. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody can be just like me and, like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm not saying that at all. You do you at your own time and at your own pace. And that's what I know I made very clear to a lot of people when I was, talking to folks. They say, "How you doing?" It's like, I'll be good when I'm ready. It's just, it takes time to process. Like I said, change is a slow process, and it takes time to process all that. I mean, like I said, I went from the campaign to teaching to becoming an electrician in a matter of a year in between each. And I didn't make time to really process that properly, I guess, is the way I should put it. And it's and like I said, this is a good thing at the end of the day, because I don't feel as upset about certain things that happened on the campaign trail that were out of my control. And like I said, this is what I'm saying, looking back on things and being, not angry about them, but just being a little like, I wish I did this differently, or having regrets, I guess. And it's letting those go. And I think once you do that, you're able to once you're able to let those things go, you're able to allow a lot more in. And that's what I think is cool, and that's what I think has been the big good for me this year. The big good this year has been, like I said, letting some of the old stuff out and letting some of the new stuff in, and I think I've been a lot happier about it, and I feel a lot better about it anyway. And like I said, anybody that's also going through that, because I know I'm far from being alone in this issue, is I really recommend. Hey, if you need to reach out, reach out. My inbox is open. And or if you not to me specifically, reach out to somebody, because it's always good to talk. And even the loneliest person is someone to talk to, believe it or not. So, that being said, it's just like I said, I'm getting back out there, getting back on top of things, and just hoping to take more trips, hoping to do a little bit more, like I've talked about, doing mine exploration and things like that on this podcast for a little while now, and just never have done it. So it's like, get out there, get out of your ass. Hoping to definitely snowmobile more this year as winter is coming, and do a lot more winter activities. Maybe to even get back on a new pair of skis and get back on that kick, strengthen my knee up a little bit more, and like I said, just get back out there, get back on top of things, and just do more. I'd like to, something I've always wanted to do is check out some more like music festivals and stuff like that. And hopefully maybe to do some of that this year, even some more like the local New England based ones. It's just, just get back out there and do the things that I want to do and make me me, and why people want to be around me. I mean, people want to be around me because I'm me, but, do the things that, make me feel good at the same time, as I guess what I'm saying. Not do the things that make people want to be around me. That's not what I meant to say, but it's just do the things that make me feel like me, or just, do the things that make you happy, whether that be, hobby wise or whatever. Obviously still continuing with music and things like that. And it's just, see my friends a lot more, especially those out of state, and also just making more time for my friends, right around the corner too. Hoping to hear from more of them on the podcast this next year, and because love those guys, and like I said, 10 years ago wouldn't be there, if they weren't there for me. Don't know where I'd be. And as I said to the folks who I had on this year, had a couple of those guys on, so it was great. Like I said, saw some really great concerts this year in terms of things that were still good. Hope to see more. Like I said, Dead and Company 2022 Summer Tour was fantastic down at Gillette. And then Phil Lesh and Friends was also terrific, as well as some other local groups I saw as well as working on my own music and other stuff like that. Just really trying to do more there. Trying to, do more, really just trying to do gigs this year. That's another goal for 23 for me. Personally, whether that be playing with my good friend Lucas Rushton, Lou, or other folks, doesn't really matter in that capacity. Just trying to play more music out in public, because like I said, I used to consistently play with a really good group of folks, at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes even more. So it's just something when you get used to for four years, you really miss and you want to get back into, obviously, especially when it brings you that much joy. Yeah, and so like I said, it's just kicking around and making some of the things I want to make possible for the next year, whether that be the DuView podcast, concert series, or whatever that may be. And so it's just like I said, making things more accessible, and just making this more accessible, and making more people really aware of this podcast is something I'd like to do in the next year. As long as like I said, we've had good progress, and it's been a good year of episodes, and even with the change in jobs and everything like that. And I knew that was going to be a challenge and a struggle. As I said, all change is. And so, like I said, it's been interesting to get to this point in the year and in the podcast and everything like that. So it's been really fun, and at the same time, it has been it's definitely, just like I said, been really, really, really interesting personally. And so I look to the next year, and I hope to do more. And one of the things I hope folks will check out, more in the next year, actually, is over on our Instagram, is the Grateful Sundays series. I love doing that because, again, I love my Grateful Dead music. I'm a Deadhead, self-proclaimed and otherwise proclaimed, and I just really like their music. Again, it's a lot like the jazz music that I grew up playing and stuff like that. It's a lot of long form improvisational music, and so I think that's really why I was attracted to that. But anyway, every Sunday, as I've mentioned before, I do what's called Grateful Sundays. If you go over to our Instagram page at DuView207, you'll see the saved older lists from the years, I guess now, soon to be before. We just celebrated a week 101, which is kind of cool. It always has a pretty decent following every Sunday. People check it out. I see, like, when you check the stats, you see the same people checking back in, so you definitely can tell that they are checking in for a reason. So it's kind of cool there to see that and how that's developed. But in the new year in 2023, I've had just a really going off a really willy-nilly playlist that I've made, and I really would like to focus things back a little bit more, as much as you can with a jam band, and really kind of start from the beginning and work our way forward with the albums. So you can see the albums in full. And so 2023, you're going to see some repeated music, obviously. If I've, I'm going to start with the first, Grateful Dead album that's out there. That came out in the the mid 60s, and work our way up. Even the live albums, yes, all the numerous live albums will also be included. So it'll give us plenty of content. And like I said, I think the organized format will just be better. It'll keep me a little bit more organized. And then I can even, pre-save things maybe if I'm going away so I don't skip weeks and stuff like that. I've been pretty good this year. Haven't missed a lot of Grateful Sundays, but sometimes you're just like, you wake up Sunday morning and you're just not in a geographical location to post. Like I said, the cell phone signal or whatever. I live in a very rural state. I live in Maine, so we're still, cell phone reception. Even being in New Hampshire with a lot of my friends, sometimes it's still few and far between on that aspect too. So, like I said, I do try to keep that consistent though. That's every Sunday, so be sure to tune in for the DuView podcast, Grateful Sundays, where I highlight my favorite Grateful Dead songs, soon to be in album by album list format, which is exciting. The ultimate dream for that would be, whatever catches wind of any of the surviving members, and they, come on and guest host they don't even have to come on for an episode. Just guest host a Sunday episode. Just say, hey, this is Bobby Ware. Make sure to listen. That'd be over the top for me. But like I said, we're talking about Christmas wishes. So hey, I'm a dreamer, man. Oh man. But like I said, it's once they I'd be happier, if they drop the prices on their tickets a little bit so I can actually go to a show this summer. But the one big thing I do plan to do more of is going to see there are a lot of good jam band cover bands, and also just like independent jam bands out there, man. If you don't check out what the State Theater or Aurora or some of these places in Portland have is running lineups from Mo to Camp. There's so many good Goose and Trey Anastasio were down in Portland not so long ago. It's just there's a lot of great stuff coming in, and unfortunately I haven't been able to be a part of it. I hope to go see Mo in February. They're doing, I think, a 2-night run down in Portland. But that being said, it's there's a lot of good newer musicians, newer jam bands. I guess if you want to call them third generation or it might even be fourth generation at this point, jam bands out there. It's great stuff. I mean, aside from the long solos and stuff, the quality of musicianship, if you don't want to listen to pre-recorded computerized pop beats and stuff like that, it's really good. It's really good. And so I share some of that stuff too, and I'll highlight that on a lot of these episodes. And so yeah, be sure to, like I said, follow us for Grateful Sundays, DuView 207 on Instagram, the DuView podcast everywhere else. And like I said, it's been a great year, guys. I really do mean that. And so I really just want to wrap things up for this episode and for the year. Just thanking everybody who came on to the episode and came on to the episodes this year and made this year what it was. So first and foremost, thank you to my cousin and boss, Nicholas Dumont, for being our first episode of 2022. Nick, thank you for coming on. Thank you to Al Cloutier from Kara. Thank you to my good longtime buddy Aaron Bernier for coming on, talking about some winter fishing and some hunting and such. Thank you to Sean Zubrod for coming on and talking about his trip on the Appalachian Trail. Thank you to my good college buddy Jeff Jackson for coming on and sharing his views on living in New Hampshire. Thank you to David Hastings for coming on and talking about Capital Area Recreation Association's auction. That went really well. Raised a lot of money for the complex this year. Also, shout out to a guest of episode 26, Mr. Jason Barnes and his band Half Off. Check them out on Facebook. They're still they're out and about doing gigs and such, so catch them. Really good. Also, shout out to the guest of episode 27, Mr. Rob Burnell. Thank you, Rob, for coming on. He just released is in the process of releasing another single, so check him out too. You can find all his stuff on his pages. A huge and very special thank you to the guest of episode 28, Mr. Riccardo Cavardini, who was in the United States for a limited amount of time and still made time to come over and see old Du at the podcast studio in Maine. So love you, buddy. Hope things are going well over in Italy. And again, that's the unique thing about the DuView podcast, folks. We've got people from all over the globe. The other Mr. Worldwide, I guess. Also, thank you to Mr. James Talalas, longtime college buddy. We had a couple folks come back after a year of being on. Thank you to Mr. Lucas Rushton and Miss Kelly Colbath for returning for their second follow-up episode. Appreciate both of you guys tremendously. Thank you for making time to return. Special thanks to my buddy Nicholas Dubord. Nick, thank you for coming on, buddy. Greatly appreciate you sharing your views as a young master plumber and a young tradesman in the state of Maine. Special thank you to fellow Maine podcast host Rory Cunningham, guest of episode 36. Rory, buddy, thank you for coming on. Greatly appreciate you making some time for me in your busy schedule. Greatly appreciate that. And a final special thank you. I've thanked actually all of you already individually, but to thank you guys as a group, special thank you to Jim, Lucas, and Jeff. Thank you guys for joining me for my first holiday roundtable. Look forward to that, same time next year, first episode of December. We'll be back with a new cast of characters, and again, it's been I guess the last thing to reflect on. Few of the solo episodes had a really good time. Really kind of honing in on specialized topics this time. I got to cover my own hometown of Augusta, Maine in a 2-part series. Maine's highest peak, Mount Katahdin. Just really kind of fun stuff to do, and just some like passion side project stuff that I don't know. I don't know if there's specific episode. There will ever be a specific podcast episode about Augusta, Maine. There might be one out there. There might be one made by like a government page or something like that. But again, to give my views on Augusta's coming to be, and of the timeline and how things came to be, and same thing with Mount Katahdin and the huge role that Teddy Roosevelt, the being in Maine had on him and everything like that, and just really unique type of historical passion project stuff that I'll continue to do in the future. I got plenty of topics that got brought up in each of the episodes, the individual solo episodes, like Augusta, Maine. I could talk about, like Benedict Arnold coming up through Maine. That could be an episode all its own. There's like so many things that could be its own individual podcast episode. So stay tuned for more of those. Like I said, I really do enjoy those. They're fun little passion projects. They're a good break too. It gives me a nice little reset to just come on here and talk and say a few things. The same thing with these type of more informal episodes. Like, I didn't plan for this episode to go as long, but here again, I've been here talking for an hour, and I probably looped over myself and tripped over myself once or twice, but that's okay. That's why y'all love me. So that being said, guys, I am going to wrap up this last episode of 2022, episode 38. Wow. It's been really cool to be on the air a little over, like, I guess we're going on a year and a half now. We'll be at our 2-year anniversary this coming May. Maybe we'll have a party or something. Stay tuned for that. That could be fun. It'd be really cool to, just live it up, have a good time, celebrate the good. So, yeah, we'll talk about that, and hopefully we'll see you guys on video here pretty soon in the future episodes. So, have a great rest of your 2022, guys. Be safe, be well, and like I said, if help me stay relevant, help me stay on the air, help me build a following here in 2023. Leave a review, thumbs up on any of the platform. You guys know what I'm saying. Leave a review. 5 stars is great, but tell us how you really feel. Also, sharing any of the episodes on your social medias is much appreciated. Whether it be Instagram, Facebook, any of those really helps, guys. And or even just telling your grandma about us, doesn't matter. Word of mouth is awesome too. So that being said, guys, hope everybody has a fantastic holiday season, whether it be heading off to Christmas here, take us with you, whether it be heading off to your New Year's party, take us with you. We're very accessible like that. So have a great 2022, guys, and have a very lucky, blessed, gracious, grateful, whatever it may be in 2023. I just hope it's good for all y'all, especially myself. So hang in there, guys. I'll have a big announcement date for the return of episodes. And just keep up to date with us at the DuView Podcast and DuView 207 on Instagram. Like I said, the DuView Podcast everywhere else. So like I said, take us with you this holiday season and just have a great rest of your year and have a great new year, guys. We'll hear from you. Well, actually, you'll hear from me. You'll hear from me very soon in 2023, guys. Have a great one. We'll see you soon.